Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I am going to discuss some frequently asked questions that I've been sent in the last couple of years. As you know, I was a bit missing in action due to health reasons after having my daughter. Just getting back to doing more videos now. So there's been a lot of questions either posted under past videos, emailed to me, or sent to me on social media. So just a reminder that I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I don't really use Twitter anymore, but I'm on Facebook and Instagram as EDS4IRE. If you want to follow my page on Facebook, or if you want to follow me on Instagram, I do have personal accounts, but I don't add people on my personal profile. It's just a bit of a rule that I have. So if I haven't even met you vaguely in life, because I tend to get a lot of friend requests on Facebook. Just, you know, through this channel and through the other social media outlets for the EDS for IRE campaign, and when the website was up as well. So the website is coming again at the end of the summer. I'm going to streamline it down a bit, so it's just a kind of just a better version of what it was. So that will be back by the end of the summer. But we still have the social media channels up. I also now want to declare that I have a TikTok channel. Yeah, so as if this wasn't embarrassing enough on YouTube, I'm going to be doing smaller videos on TikTok. Lord help us all. So you can follow me there as well. Again, it's EDS4IRE. So I've just started that today. Hopefully it's something a bit different. We'll see how it goes. I'm not totally convinced, but it might be a bit of fun. So just to get back to today's video then, the questions that I've been asked, I suppose, were around two main topics of two videos that I did before. So that's what I'm going to discuss now. If I find more frequently asked questions, or if you have any other questions either about myself, the campaign in general, or just EDS in general, or any videos that you've watched before that I didn't get a chance to reply to you, because I do get a lot of messages, and unfortunately I haven't been able to reply to everyone either on social media or in comments on other videos. So if you've ever asked me a question that I didn't get a chance to reply to, please post it under this one and I can do another frequently asked questions video on YouTube in the future. So the two topics I'm going to cover today are the diagnosis process here in Ireland, because that probably needs updating slightly, and I do have a whole video on that, and that's kind of where people started to, I suppose, message me on and about that. So the following topic then will be tattoos. So something completely different. So I'm in a vest top today, so you can see all my tattoos, but I also did a video about EDS and tattoos, so I'll talk a bit more about that, kind of recap on things I've already said about it. But I know there's a huge interest apparently in the Ehlers Danlos community here in Ireland and tattoos. So there you go. So to start off with, I suppose the diagnostic process here in Ireland. If you're an adult and you suspect that you have either Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or hypermobility spectrum disorder, generally the two routes for diagnosis for these conditions are through either a rheumatologist or a geneticist. As you're probably aware, if you live in Ireland, public waiting lists can be terrible. It's also a bit of an air code lottery depending on what side of the country you live in. It can also often be age related. I'd be lying if I said the waiting lists for public healthcare aren't quite ageist. In regards to, you know, if you're young, especially if you're a young woman, let's be honest, if you're a young woman, it can be a long journey on those waiting lists. So if you're a young woman in particular who suspects that she has something like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that a lot of Irish rheumatologists don't really know about, then expect an even longer wait. I'm actually going to do maybe another video on preparing yourself for going to these appointments. I think that might be something of benefit, so that's something I'm going to put a pin in for the future, so I won't discuss that now. So the first thing to do is go to your GP, request a public referral, because I think that is important to try and at least go the public route. Now, Again, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that everyone gets diagnosed in the public route through rheumatology, because that's just not the case. If you're experiencing severe episodes of organ rupture or bleeding, and you suspect that there's a vascular EDS connection within your family, then definitely mention that to your GP, that you don't think there are several variants of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and of hypermobility spectrum disorder. Some of them are more serious than others. So if you feel there's a vascular element at all to your condition, if you've previous health emergencies that you've had to go to hospital over, any internal bleeding really, something that you need to discuss with your GP. If someone has even died suddenly in your family, definitely discuss that with your GP. If you do believe that you have vascular EDS or one of the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes that isn't the hypermobility type, you can request also to go to Genetics in Ireland. Again, discuss that with your GP, because it will depend where you live in the country. I eventually went publicly for Geneticist in Dublin. That was through Crumlin, yes, the kids' hospital, but I'm an adult. That's just the way it is. And I was on the wait list at the time for I think about 3 years. Now, I don't believe that I have vascular EDS, and I didn't believe that I had vascular EDS, but it was still something I had a discussion with my GP about, and I was like, do you know what? I was diagnosed a few years ago. It might as well be something I just ask a geneticist about, really. So, luckily enough, in regards to any internal bleeding I've had, it's been from my gut, so that it's also been related to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and connected disorders that I have through that, so comorbid conditions. So I have had semi-serious bleeding in the past, but I've never had organ rupture, so I've no reason to suspect vascular at all. Now, I did go see a geneticist. At this stage, I'd already been diagnosed, as I said, for several years with EDS. So it was just kind of, in a perfect world, I think everyone's going to go to a geneticist. You're going to go, and they're going to look for the markers for all types of EDS. Now, there's several reasons why they don't do that. You could have one marker and not the other. There's a lot of variance to why they don't test everyone. And again, if we're being perfectly honest, a lot of that is down to money. You can't just test everyone that walks in the door. I met eventually, after a few years, with a lovely geneticist, and she went through all my files, spoke about family history of illness in the family. She was pretty thorough, checked me over, the kind of usual, and she decided not to do any testing. Now, it kind of, to be honest, I think it might have been one of those things that I could have, if I wanted to, really pushed for, but I didn't feel like I needed to. I don't think I qualify for a classical type or vascular type, so I'm pretty comfortable with the diagnosis that I already have. She was obviously, like, if you have a bigger rupture in the future, I think that's something we definitely need to look at and get referred back here, and we'll see you quicker this time, that kind of thing. So she was very nice. She wrote up a big report, and she did state, which I think was good, to have that probably on the higher scale, I suppose, if you want to call it like that, of the hypermobility type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, just because I've got the comorbid issues and some of the unfortunate symptoms that go along with that. And everyone with EDS, even if you have the same type of EDS, everyone can be so different and so varied, and that's why it's so hard to get a diagnosis in the first place. But geneticist usually isn't the first point of call as such for people. It's usually rheumatology. So if you suspect that you have hypermobility spectrum disorder or the hypermobility type of EDS, then you want to get referred to a rheumatology first and foremost. Again, try and go the public route. Talk to your GP. If you are on the Facebook, there's, as I said in my last video, there's a very good Facebook group for people living in Ireland with EDS. and that's Ehlers Danlos Awareness Ireland. Again, I will link in the bottom of this video, so if you want to go down in the description, you will see the link there. If you're joining them on Facebook, make sure to answer those answer questions. So it'd be a good idea to go in there and ask in that group whereabouts, because it would depend whereabouts in the country you are. Just go, has anyone been to this rheumatologist in this hospital? You know, even if you're going the public route, but especially if you're going the private route and you want to pay money for that. Again, as I said, rheumatology, like anywhere in Ireland, going to any consultant can be air code lottery. So you have to take that into consideration, that you could be on the waiting list up to 4 years. It's just the reality of it. If you want to go privately, I would still, like in my last video, highly suggest Brian Mulcahy in Cork, if you want to stay in Ireland, that is. Other people take the route and they go to people like Alan Hakim over in London, the hypermobility clinic there. He tends to be off quite a lot for research and things like that, as do a lot of the other consultants. But if you want to stay more local and try your hand at the public system first, or even privately, I would consider going on to one of the Facebook support groups at least, and asking in there, hey, you know, I live in Mayo. Does anyone know a good rheumatologist around here? Has anyone been diagnosed here? You know, I think you can't beat the experience of someone local to you, and you'll get a real review, I think, from another EDS patient, and I think that's vital. That's totally vital. I mean, the community in general, I think, whether you're diagnosed or not, is going to be very important for asking questions, particularly for yourself. But of course, you can come on here and ask me questions also if you want, and I will try and answer them in other videos. But having, you know, more minds is just better, especially if it's something local to you. You can hear my dog, Emily, currently drinking water in the kitchen. Good girl, Emily. It's probably showing up in the video, so just want to clarify that. Don't have the like toddler running around drinking water. Good girl. So rheumatology first. If you suspect a different type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome than the hypermobility type, then you want to start looking at genetics. They haven't pinpointed the exact markers yet for the hypermobility type of EDS. The research is ongoing, and some of that's quite promising, but it's not exact yet. So you're going to a rheumatologist who will do a thorough exam, or should do, usually a couple of hours. So they go through family history, ask your medical history from birth. So I will do maybe another video on that whole process, things to have prepared for your first appointment, things like that. I think that might be beneficial to a lot of people out there who are waiting for their diagnosis. Money, of course, is just a huge obstacle for people. Money is a huge obstacle when we're talking about going private. But again, I would suggest Brian Mulcahy in Cork. Now, the only thing is, as I do this video, to update from the last video, because it's 2023 now, I've heard that his pricing range is about 300, 350. Maybe someone can clarify that for me in the comments. So it was quite a bit cheaper a few years ago when I got mine done. I think it's about 350 now. It's generally a 2-hour exam, but again, you're going to hear different stories within the online communities about he's great, he's bad, you know, and that's just going to be the same way with any consultant, unfortunately. But he is the closest to what we have in Ireland at the minute, as an expert as such in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. He's also confident, I feel, in diagnosing, and I feel like that's the thing with a lot of Irish rheumatologists, is that not that they're hugely unqualified, they lack the confidence. Sometimes they lack the resources. Sometimes I think they panic a little when they hear of EDS. I've went to appointments where I've not had physical exams, which I think has been very interesting, and I think they're worried about dislocating joints and stuff like that, which I can understand. But at the same time, if you go to a medical appointment and they're referring to assessment and they're calling it an assessment, if you go to something like rheumatology and they say in the word assessment, that should imply some kind of physical assessment. Like, I don't know how they can judge your joints and your mobility and your hypermobility by not even looking at the actual joints or touching them at all. So there's a lot of fear around, or just around us in general, which, you will as you start to go to appointments start to see whether you're diagnosed or just suspect that you have these conditions. But a lot of it's down to confidence, and just, that's why awareness is so important, and awareness within the medical community is so important. It's not just, when we speak of awareness, it's a very broad term, but we definitely need awareness amongst rheumatologists, and that's something we can't do alone. That's something that we need the HSE to literally step in and do for us. We can't go around training doctors. We can hand out leaflets as much as we want, and that's something I'm going to look at doing again in the future. But unfortunately, if I was to give my best friend advice tomorrow on what to do, I would say find the money from somewhere, go privately to Brian Mulcahy. But again, things have changed. It's 2023. The wait list is now at least 10 months at the minute, from what I'm hearing. So I'm recording this at the minute. It's May 2023, and the wait list is like 10 months at least. So I suppose that gives a lot of people time to save the money where possible. So get your referral in from your GP as soon as possible, if that's something you're looking at. And again, as I said earlier, and in my past videos, the other options are to go to London. There's several clinics in London. I went to Alan Hakeem in the hypermobility clinic, but the waiting again is, depending on the season, can be like you're waiting ages. I think particularly since COVID, they're trying to like catch up with people as well, in fairness, like the public systems are still doing. So there's some of that, but then there's some of the big consultants often go away for long times for research and things like that. So hopefully that's answered everything to do with the diagnostic process here in Ireland. Your GP, and having a good GP is your first protocol. Such, that's like really important, because even if you go private, you still need a good GP. While you're waiting, you still need to have a good GP. And often the private consultants will ask for a referral as well. As far as I'm aware, Brian Mulcahy still does. So that's something to think about. Any other questions regarding that, please do leave them in the bottom. And as I said, again, I will put the group name and for the Irish group and link them at the bottom. Make sure to answer those questions though on Facebook, or you just won't get into it simply.